Okay, now we're talking about resting postures when you're in front of some media like a TV, or you're playing some video games, or maybe even at the dinner table, and what you can have. Now, I'm on white wrestling mats, so this does offer me some cushion and some forgiveness for some pressure on my knees and my ankles. So if you do have access to mats, I would highly recommend it because it just makes it easier for us to be on the ground. So if you can imagine that if I was on the ground, like on some mud or on some nice sand, that this too would also make it a little bit easier for me to get down here. This is going to be our main foundation position right here when we're in a seating position. The reason that this is so important is because this is where we developed. This is simply just fetal position upright. Let me show you. Fetal position, inside ankle bone high here. I take this position, and now all I do is just add pressure of gravity and my body weight. And I should be able to stack myself here because this is how my joints are designed to house myself. So we started in a non-gravity aquarian environment, and then you introduce gravity, you introduce pressure and weight. These joints should be able to still stack this way, unstack, and stack back here. So very important to have your Seiza position or the samurai position as your main go-to. Now, that doesn't mean that we're going to be hanging out here for hours in front of a TV or playing video games. Maybe we're going to be here for 5 minutes before I start to get a little bit fatigued on my ankles, maybe my knees, and then so I'm going to start to move around. So first thing we're going to have is our side to side. I can move around, I can start to adjust pressure here. And then once I get a little bit bored, then I can go into some of my half styles. This is going to be our cowboy series. So now I just raise one leg up here, boom, hanging out, doing some work, talking. I can go to the other side, hanging out, boom, talking. We can go double low squat, with bows, low squat, with corners. If I get tired of putting my feet on the ground, put my butt on the ground, feet extended. Now when I'm here though, again, I don't want to be in my front chain. I want to be in my back chain as much as I can. Hips behind the rib cage. Legs get a little bit tired or a little bit too stretchy, so then I want to crisscross them. I want to set some bows because this would be corners, corners. I want to set some bows. So then I go into crisscross. Here's a half crisscross. I can get my foot up into here. The closer that I get my foot into my hip, the more that it's going to set me into the back chain. So the further away I get here, this is more Goata. The more that I go here, this would be more Goata. Like I could get up from here. To get up from here would be very difficult for me. So getting up from here is something that I can do. So the closer that we get ourselves inside our columns, so look at now I'm getting my knees and my ankles inside my columns here, this is going to be more Goata. This is one of my favorite positions as just a static stretching. But really this is just all derivatives of crisscross, and crisscross was amazing, and we want to have all of these in our wheelhouse, including full lotus. Fantastic one. There's a reason why the yogis and spent so much time here is because this sets perfect posture. Inside ankle bone high to the max, big bows, and it's almost impossible for me to be in full lotus and to be in my front chain. This is actually taking a lot of muscular effort, but the double bowed full lotus, when I stack on my sits bones, then I actually have a very easy sitting posture, which is fantastic. So this is all good. We can just regress it by going here, switching it up. This is also just a good way to open it up. Then that's the ground series. Of course, then we do have laying here, butt behind the rib cage, inside ankle bones high, great laying, resting posturing here, small side bend here. Of course, we have all of those, but then we also have our half kneeling postures. So then I could be here, playing on a game, and now I'm actually doing like a workout. Switch up here, I can go here, boom. And then that's just myself. Then I can have a bunch of different tools that allow me to change position and move. So for instance, here I've got this corner board that I made that can help me get into a tall kneeling, to a half kneeling. I can use the back of the corner board and I could sit on the down slope here. I can sit on the slope here. It's going to help me get into my back chain. Then we got slants. I can sit on slants. Slants, when I sit on the down angle like that, it takes less energy from my foot. We even have things at the Goata shop like the Seiza chair. So if it's difficult for you to get in the Seiza position, you can get yourself one of these little Seiza chairs. Boom. Hang out here for a long time. Now the pressure is mostly going to be in my hips and not going to be in my ankles. That's the big one for people, is just too much pressure on their ankles. However, I would say that the Seiza position is a great way to open up inside ankle bone high and to unlock that ability. It's fantastic to be able to have all these waiting and resting postures, and they are feeding your ability to move better through time and space rather than taking that away. If I sit like this in my front chain for a long time and then I go to stand and walk, it's going to be difficult for my nervous system to reorganize itself and say, okay, let's get into the back chain, let's get inside of our columns, let's do all of this. Versus if I'm sitting here in my back chain, in my corners, doing all video games, playing, talking to someone, it doesn't really matter. And then I go to stand up, it's right there for me. So the closer that we get our waiting and resting postures to look like the same shapes, behaviors that we want in running and walking, the closer we're going to get to health and just being able to be constant movers. To wrap this up, what I want to say is that waiting, resting, and sleeping postures, we need to start to change our framework of how we view these things. And we view waiting postures like standing in line at the grocery store, anytime you're waiting at a bar for your drink, something like that. Resting postures, meaning like here I'm in a resting posture talking, and then sleeping postures. These postures, or these three boxes, the waiting, resting, and sleeping, oftentimes get attached to static thinking, non-movement thinking. Even the word posture is not a very great word, because posture is talking about a fixed being, a fixed position that is not moving. When in reality, if I'm playing a game, if you watch young children or anyone on the ground, there really isn't a time when there isn't like a not movement. There's just constant movement all the time here, just fidgeting on the ground. And this is a fantastic thing. This is extremely healthy, because when I'm here in the ground, yes, it's going to get a little bit uncomfortable. I'm going to start to receive those signals from my body, and then I'm going to be able to change. Okay, my right leg is getting a little uncomfortable. That's fine. Let me change it up. How does this feel? Oh, this feels great on my hip. I like this. Here, I can get some rocks in. I like it. Okay, here, I'm going to go transition my knees, etc., etc. And so what I'm doing here, two things. The first thing is that I'm just giving my body movement, and movement within the singularity. So I'm not giving it bad stuff like inside edge toe down. I'm not giving it bad stuff like here, but I'm keeping everything basically inside my columns, inside ankle bone high and back chain dominant. And I've got such a plethora of really good and rich movement that I can give to myself. The second thing that I'm doing is reinforcing the conversation and the dialogue communication between my body and myself. When my body says, hey, this is getting a little bit too much, the pressure's a little bit too much, I'm feeling uncomfortable. Here's some pain signals, here's some discomfort signals. I receive those signals and I say, no problem, let me switch it up. Maybe my brain says, I'm bored. Say, no problem, let me switch it up. We don't necessarily want to be monks in a monastery, sitting with perfect posture, doing our work, playing our games, or sitting at the dinner table. We want to be more like a child, like an animal that is just in constant movement, constantly stretching, constantly receiving signals from the body and responding with nourishing movement. This is where we start to really increase the amount of movement that we're doing. And the more that we increase our movement, especially good movement, the healthier our joints are, the healthier our bones, musculature, our minds are. Set at ease. Set yourself at ease by doing some rocks. There's a reason why the children do these rocks, besides just trying to build themselves up in their back chain. It's because it's neurally soothing to us, soothing our nervous system to be down here, soothing our nervous system to move around a lot in ways that are pleasurable, feel good for us, and strengthening. Goata is always going to be on that path of, wow, this feels good to me, this feels strengthening to me, this feels like a strong, good position, comfortable position. On the Wota side, we get further away from those sensations. In fact, a lot of those sensations just completely turn off, and we just kind of collapse into ourselves. So that's just a little spiel on some waiting and resting postures. Get some devices, build some devices, make your environments where you spend a lot of time in one little section, make them as movement rich as you possibly can. And I think your mind and your body are going to benefit greatly from that, as well as your joints. So when you go to move, you're not going to have this crack, 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 crack. No, you're down here on the ground, you're moving around, you're doing your thing, you're on a Zoom call, you're doing this, boom, boom, boom. You need to get up, it's no big deal, and you're on your way, and you feel great, and you feel ready to go. That's where we'd like to be. So enjoy moving. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.